My narcissistic sister tried to kill me, but the family took it as a joke. Now, finally, everyone has realized just how unhinged she really is. A bit of background. I am the second youngest of 5 children. Among my older siblings, I have 2 brothers and 1 older sister, whom we'll call X for this story. There is a 5-year age gap between me and X, so we never had the sisterly bond that one might expect between sisters. Growing up, I was always a burden to her, and whenever it was my turn to choose a family movie or something else, she would get upset. The reason is that since she was 9 years old, she's had an obsessive need to control everything. I think you can see where this is going. I'm about to turn 19, and X turned 24 this year. Her boyfriend, whom we'll call Y, proposed to her during a family day at the beach this past June. It was one of those elaborate proposals with big white letters made out of rose petals. I set up the letters before my family arrived. My sister was thrilled, said yes, and my parents, along with my older siblings, were very happy. The youngest in our family is only 4 years old, so I don't think she fully understood what was happening. And now the drama begins. Since the proposal, X has completely transformed into a bridezilla. At my mom's insistence, X made me a bridesmaid, so now I'm caught up in all this nonsense. Here are the demands my dear sister has made. All bridesmaids must pay for their own light pink dresses, priced at $300 each, as well as their shoes, hair, and makeup. Additionally, all bridesmaids are required to attend every bachelorette event, including a spa day costing $800 per person. There's also a bachelorette trip planned in Toronto, with accommodations at the Fairmont Hotel costing $1,000 for 2 nights. On top of that, bridesmaids must participate in the cake and food tasting, paying a $25 entrance fee. To attend the wedding, each guest must pay a $150 deposit. Otherwise, their spot at the reception will be forfeited. Gifts can be given either in cash, or check, or by choosing something from her registry. The registry lists every gift that must be given. Guests are required to select a gift and write their name next to it on the list. If a gift doesn't match the registry, my sister will return it. My mom says it's just pre-wedding stress. I, however, think it's simply my sister trying to control everything and everyone. She wants a December wedding at a ski resort. Sigh. Here are some more demands my sister has imposed on the bridesmaids. Leading up to the wedding, everyone has to go to a beauty salon every 6 weeks to make sure our skin and hair look flawless for photos. Of course, this is at our own expense. Anyone with tattoos will need to cover them up. Our dresses cover the neck, ankles, and wrists, so they should help with that. The bride wants to be the only one with exposed arms, showing off her tattoos and bold hairstyle. We either have to dye our hair a natural color or buy a wig, also at our own expense. The dresses only go up to size 10. Those who don't fit must lose weight. I wear a size 12 and my sister calls me fat. She even ordered a keto diet book for me. No one, including vendors, is allowed to contact the bride or groom directly. Everything must go through the bridesmaids. She created an email with the wedding surname, which we all have access to. We're not supposed to ask her if something is okay. We're just supposed to know. This particularly frustrates my mom. We also have to remind guests to pay the $150 deposit to secure their spot. We also have to ask guests what they plan to buy from the gift registry or how much money they'll give, and record that information on the list. As I tell this whole story to others, I'm starting to realize that my family is not normal. I'm considering reaching out to a therapist at my university to find out if I can move into the dorms. I called my aunt, who also happens to be my godmother, while she was at work. She thinks my mom is crazy. My aunt strongly encourages me to talk to my parents about everything, not just the wedding, but also the preferential treatment of my sister. She's also ready to help if things don't go well. This is what the commenters have advised the author at this point.
She'll have to accept that finances control the lives of many people. If she doesn't come back down to earth, it will prevent people like you from participating in her wedding.
I tried explaining this to her, but she doesn't listen. Her fiancé makes over $120,000 a year working in IT, and she's an accountant with a $100,000 salary. They could easily pay for everything themselves.
Tell your mom and sister that you won't participate unless someone covers all your expenses. Your mom shouldn't pretend everything's fine when your sister is acting like an unreasonable bridezilla.
That won't work. He's a very calm person, so they're a good match. He's the only one who can calm her down.
How does his family feel about the entrance fee for their wedding?
They don't mind. They say it's normal for an Italian family, but I just found out that's not actually true.
Tell your mom you don't have that kind of money, and your sister that she can include you as a regular guest.
She has 13 bridesmaids, 12 bridesmaids and 1 maid of honor. Why 13? To match the number of the groom's brothers. He was in a class of 13 people who became his brothers. I don't know what that means, but it's important to him. I spoke with her. She said it's my duty as a sister to save money. Mom and Dad are paying nearly $100,000 for the wedding, so they can't give me $2,000 for my expenses. I'm starting college in the fall, and my education costs $177,000. Strange priorities. $100,000 for a wedding, but they won't pay for my education. I'll have to take out a student loan.
Did your sister go to college? I would ask my parents to cover my education expenses and tell them I don't need a $100,000 wedding. After all, everything should be equal among the kids. If they can afford $100,000, then what's another $2,000?
Education has always been exclusively our responsibility. Mom and Dad saved money for weddings and honeymoons for everyone. First update. A week later, we finally talked 2 days ago, and I needed a day to process everything. It turns out my dad never knew the whole story. He thought his responsibility was to pay for my sister's dress and part of the wedding. This was confirmed by my parents, and my dad even showed me the bank statements. My parents had created $25,000 accounts for me and each of my siblings. According to the rules, these accounts could be used for anything when we turned 19 and began our education. That money was considered ours. I just turned 19, and my dad was about to sign over my share of the money to me. This conversation caused a bit of a scandal, but now I need to share some backstory that I learned after my sister got engaged. It turns out she had spoken to my mom and told her that she always felt neglected. She's used this line before, and it seems my mom bought into it, feeling guilty. As a result of a long conversation, my mom decided she could redirect part of the funds from all the kids' accounts to pay for my sister's wedding. For those who are interested, my 2 older brothers serve in the military. They're not married and live on base. They've never used their $25,000 because the Canadian military covers their education, housing, and other needs. So my mom had $50,000 at her disposal. Then, combined with my sister's $25,000 and my $25,000, it would make up $100,000. My mom decided that since my education costs $177,000, she could just give me my $25,000 later. My sister did this because she's a master manipulator who knows how to pull the right strings. When I was born, my mom suffered from severe postpartum depression, which led to her being in a psychiatric hospital for 4 months. My sister, 2 brothers, and I stayed with my dad. At the time, my older brothers were 9 and 7 years old, and I was just a few months old. My sister was 5 or slightly younger. Since my brothers were a handful, my dad had his hands full. I was cared for by a hired nanny, which meant my sister received the least attention, and at an age when it was especially important. I think this contributed to her developing some negative traits. The nanny helped my sister with basic needs: food, water, bathing, clothing, and a bit of play. But she couldn't replace a mother. When my mom returned, my sister developed a huge resentment, but not toward my mom, toward me, since I was the reason mom left. This led to an incident where my sister once tried to smother me with a pillow. My mom managed to prevent it in time, and this episode became just a funny story in our family. It turned out to be her way of coping with the situation. Throughout my childhood, my sister used manipulation to get what she wanted, so it's no surprise she tried the same tactics for her wedding. My mom, feeling guilty, decided to give her precious girl everything she wanted. When my sister grew up, it was no longer toys and candy, but full-blown luxury experiences. As a result, I became much closer to my dad than to my mom. My sister and I had a decent relationship when I was around 12, but everything changed again when my mom got pregnant with my younger sister. It was unplanned, and I once again became the target of her resentment. Second update. Now that the backstory is complete, here's what happened. We finally had a conversation, and I told them how I felt, how this was going to be a huge financial burden for me, how unfair it was, and so on. My dad exploded. He had no idea about the $100,000. I showed him a screenshot from the group chat. He didn't like that my mom kept using the phrase, "Your father and I agreed," when in reality they hadn't discussed any such thing. We sorted out the wedding issue, and I was told that my attendance wasn't required. Then I was asked to go to my room because my dad and mom wanted to talk privately and figure out the budget. Later, my dad asked why I hadn't felt comfortable bringing this issue up with him sooner. I showed him this story I'm writing for you all. My dad was furious. He immediately called my sister and told her she needed to come over as soon as possible because he needed to talk to her. He didn't accept any excuses. She said she'd be there in 4 hours since she was with her fiancé and his parents. My dad insisted she come immediately, but she hung up and blocked his number. My dad told me to go back to my room again. I don't know exactly what happened between them, but afterward, my mom came to talk to me. She told me about her postpartum depression and other things I hadn't known before. We sort of reconciled, and I asked my mom if my sister would consider going to therapy since mom is so sure that the 4-month gap caused her issues. My mom said she would try to convince her, but of course couldn't force her. I told her that if my sister didn't go to therapy, I would cut off contact with her and might even limit my relationship with my mom. Then my dad joined the conversation and assured me that I would get my $25,000 and that I wouldn't need to attend the wedding if I didn't want to. Since my sister is charging each guest $150, she'll be able to pay for her grand wedding herself with those funds. That's a joke, of course, but it seems that her future in-laws don't plan to pay for the wedding. So my parents will have to cover the entire cost. Otherwise, my sister won't be able to have her dream ski resort wedding. And about the $150 entry fee. My sister made it all up. There's no such Italian tradition. We spoke with the groom's mother when she dropped my sister off, and she was shocked to hear this. There is a tradition of a money dance at the reception, but no mandatory $150 charge. My sister arrived 5 hours later. While the groom's mother was there, she was pleasant. But as soon as she left, it began. My sister demanded to know why Dad interrupted their evening and called her back urgently. Dad told her he didn't care about their evening and ordered her to sit down. She refused, and an argument erupted. Eventually, she sat down when Dad started using various pressure tactics, including financial threats and the threat of telling the groom's mother about her true nature, which her fiancé apparently hadn't seen yet. I was asked to leave the room again. There was a lot of yelling and manipulation from my sister, including threats to cut off contact and deny my parents the chance to see their future grandchildren. She tried to get my mom to return to the original $100,000 plan, but my mom and Dad held firm. The argument went on until Dad shouted that mom isn't her punching bag and isn't to blame for postpartum depression. He told her that if she's so angry about it, she should go to therapy. They called me back in, and we discussed everything, starting with the keto diet book. My sister tried to justify her actions, saying I'm fat and lazy, but my dad defended me. My sister started crying, and my mom asked Dad to be gentler, which he did. In the end, we talked everything through, and I finally felt like part of the family, rather than just another punching bag. My sister eventually called a taxi and left, saying she was being attacked. We decided to wait until Christmas, when my brothers returned to town, so we can discuss as a family what we need to do to move forward and avoid further conflicts. Most likely, it'll either be family therapy or cutting her off from the family. My mom and dad are still working on the budget with the groom's relatives. My parents told them that everyone would need to contribute for such an elaborate wedding. The groom's family agreed that $100,000 for a wedding was insane. The latest I heard is that my sister will get $15,000 for the wedding, which essentially means $5,000 since her $10,000 dress has already been ordered. The remaining $10,000 will be saved for something more meaningful. The groom's family also agreed to contribute $15,000, $10,000 for the wedding, and $5,000 for the honeymoon. As for my education, tomorrow my dad and I are going to the bank. We're planning to cancel the loan I was forced to take out and pay the penalty for canceling it. The loan was set to take effect only when my studies began, so luckily the penalty is minimal. My dad paid it, acknowledging that I shouldn't have had to take a loan. My parents agreed to pay for my first year of college without deducting from the $25,000 set aside for me. The full amount they planned for my education will be transferred into a special account. My relationship with my mom is still tense, and my sister outright hates me. She accused me of irreparably damaging her relationship with her fiancé and his family. As a result, she banned me from her wedding and has essentially cut me out of her life. Honestly, I don't care. I don't feel like I've lost a sister. I feel like I've finally rid myself of a villain. I promised my mom and dad that I would never treat my younger sister the way my older sister treated me. I plan to be the example and protector she deserves, just like my brothers and dad were for me. Let's look at some interesting comments.
One thing that seems to be overlooked: your sister tried to kill you. That's serious. I hope you discuss this with a therapist. It's a significant trauma. The fact that your parents brushed it off as a joke is unacceptable. This is terrible, and I sincerely hope you push your mom to figure out why she reacted that way. Why didn't she send your sister to therapy back then? Your sister should apologize to you. It might also be wise to ensure her fiancé knows about the money she demanded. He should understand who he's dealing with.
My mom and dad didn't initially treat it as a joke. It was mostly my sister who started saying it was a joke, especially when we were older. Of course, my parents never left me alone with my older sister after that incident. Either they were in the room or my older brother was nearby. Only when I turned 10 and my sister and I had a somewhat normal relationship did the situation start being joked about. I forgave her and honestly thought it was just a joke. Now I realize it wasn't, and that she has hated me her whole life. As for therapy, I forgot to mention she went from ages 7 to 10, but learned to say what the therapist wanted to hear, so they ended the sessions. Dad didn't mind. Mom wanted a second opinion and found the best child psychologist in Alberta for my sister. He worked with her for almost 4 years. In the end, he said he had taught her everything and helped her deal with her traumas and issues. But I feel like she simply learned to say exactly what they didn't want to hear. As for her fiancé, he knows. I sent him a long voice message, and we talked on the phone for 2 hours. In the end, he just shrugged it off. Looking back, I think he knew. He also shows some troubling signs himself.
Do your parents think they failed in raising your sister by allowing her to behave this way? She was neglected. She tried to smother you with a pillow, and it became a family joke. It seems like your parents are shifting the blame onto her, though they're also at fault.
I definitely think it played a role. She showed troubling behavior even as a child, pushing, biting, and intentionally hurting my brothers or kids at preschool. I think the lack of a mother figure broke her. Dad took care of the boys, the nanny mostly took care of me, and my aunt looked after my sister, but she couldn't replace a mother. The problem is that while things got better when I was 12, my sister then told me why she hated me, for taking all the attention. At 14, she began hating me again when Mom was pregnant with our youngest sister, and my older sister would take out her anger on me, on Mom, or on the dog. To understand the kind of person my sister is, it's worth mentioning that she stole her fiancé from another girl she knew. She did it simply because she wanted him and didn't care about her acquaintance. Therapists often wait until a person is 18 to diagnose borderline personality disorder, hoping they'll outgrow it. But adults with BPD often become master manipulators. They can deceive therapists, hiding their behavioral traits and lying about their actions and feelings so convincingly that it resembles acting. They always have a reason to justify their actions and can easily mislead those around them. Damn, I feel like I'm going down another rabbit hole. It's obvious my sister will refuse therapy unless it's to prove she was right all along. Yeah, she didn't even give me that damn Lala Loopsy doll. She just grabbed it and burned it.
Cutting off contact seems like the best option for people dealing with untreated BPD individuals. Don't worry, your life will be much calmer without the drama and crazy accusations. Don't stress over your sister not wanting therapy. Therapy only works if a person is honest and willing to change. People with BPD often lack both. You should consider going to therapy yourself. I did, and it really helped me, along with listening to similar stories. Parents often enable these kinds of children in an attempt to keep the family together, but having a sibling with BPD is a tough situation. Once you realize this is all abnormal, you can start to heal.
Yes, my mom, dad, and I are all planning to go to therapy. Third update, 3 months have passed. Family therapy is going really well. Both of my brothers were given temporary leave to come back to Canada, as they'd both been serving overseas for a while. Our family is on the path to healing, and my mom and I have grown closer than ever. Honestly, It feels like I've gained a best friend again. As for my sister, I honestly don't know what's going on with her. A friend still follows her on social media, and it seems she's doing fine. The wedding was moved from December to November. She and her fiancé bought a house, and there are even rumors that she's pregnant. She's cut off all contact with us, and her fiancé's family is spreading nasty rumors about us. But we're holding up. My older brother is getting married, so in losing a terrible sister, I've gained a wonderful one. She's so sweet. She messages me every couple of days and sends me food delivery when I'm feeling down. Even though she's in another state, she asked if I felt comfortable being her bridesmaid. She's an only child and her mom passed away, so I agreed. By next year, I'll officially have a new sister. I've also started dating someone. He's in the military too. Seems like I can't avoid it. He's incredibly supportive and caring. We've been dating for almost a month now. Update 4, after my sister's wedding. My family and I were excluded from attending my sister's wedding ceremony. But my cousins, friends, and her husband's family filled me in on how it all went. Nothing particularly special happened. The groom's mother wore an ivory-colored dress, and a few guests brought their children despite the no kids rule. But the real drama started at the reception. I do feel a bit sorry for my sister, but the groom's mother invited one of his ex-girlfriends, apparently hoping to split them up. It didn't work. She tried to come between my sister and her husband, but to his credit, he asked her to leave. Honestly, it wasn't all that dramatic. They made it to the altar and are already off on their honeymoon. Turns out my sister is indeed pregnant. At the end of the reception, the groom gave a speech while a slideshow played. The last slide showed an ultrasound image with the caption, "Baby, last name, June 2023. There are plenty of opinions about this story. It's good it ended the way it did. Things often turn out differently.
Subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Share this story with friends and best of luck.